What is going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast, and today we have an unfortunate end to the Cavs run in episode 34 today. Boston just clearly had our number. They were able to easily beat us because we just could not overcome the amount of injuries and guys that we just were missing. And it was unfortunate, but now the drama begins, and that is what a good portion of this episode is going to be about. But before we get started on that, Andrew, my friend, how are you feeling today after a pretty rough loss?
I mean, I'm obviously very disappointed and very sad that the Cavs have been knocked out of the playoffs. But again, it's like you said, man, what can we do when some of your best players, your Donovan Mitchell was out, Jared Allen was out, and then you lost Levert, who started to come alive in the playoffs, and losing those three big detriment to the team because if you really think about it, having all three of those guys could have made a huge difference in this series. I think we'd be continuing on in this series. Right now, we wouldn't be so despaired and upset. I think we'd be going to game six tomorrow and,
Yeah,
you know, coming back home with a 3-2 series or even a tied series or whatnot, or maybe even a lead in the series because, to be honest, even though we lost it's not like we lost badly in any of these games besides maybe the first game.
yeah,
We got blown out and then you lose Mitchell and Levert and Allen. Obviously you lost Allen a long time ago, but I think having those three guys, you really had a big turnaround and because that's points off the bench with Levert, that's 30 from Donovan Mitchell a night, and that's also 18 from Allen with 18 rebounds as well. So not as many second chance points for the Celtics as they got. So it's one of those things where all three of those had something that you really needed, and you could tell they were missing. But I give the boys a lot of credit for the fights that they put up. I mean, they led the most of the game the other night.
yeah.
Like they had lead, they were going back and forth with the Celtics until basically the end of the late fourth quarter when the Celtics started to pull away. So we had it, we held it, but no, I don't think we should be down about it because we played so well, and I think the Celtics are a very beatable team if we had a healthy roster. And obviously, Celtics fans are like, oh well, we had Kristaps out, and it's like Kristaps is not a huge part of your team right now,
No,
yeah, he's a great piece to have, but it's not like he was going to be a difference maker.
no, and especially when you had guys like Horford,
Yeah.
the other nights just really stepping up, playing well when they needed him to in Game Five. I mean, when guys like that are going off, it's unfortunate. And
Hmm.
I think the most disappointing thing, too, well, two of things. One is just not seeing Allen play in this series at all. I thought he was going to be able to eventually muster the courage to get up there. And, look, I get it. A bruised rib is pretty, hard to play through,
Hmm.
but it sounds like he could have and he just didn't, or whatever the case was. There's definitely some frustrations there from what it sounds like in the early stages of this now gonna be stressful and crazy off season for us. Um, and now it begs into question about whether or not you're gonna see Allen in a Cavs uniform after this year. And the same could go for Garland. Garland, this was a very disappointing playoff overall for him. He had,
Hmm.
the great, was it game six with Mitchell? He's had some moments, and it's not like Garland isn't a special kid, but when his mental is at an all time low, the kid cannot overcome it, and he's just too hard on himself. I don't know if JB holds him back. I don't know. Like whatever is going on with Garland, he needs to get it fixed because if not, he's also not going to be in a Cavs uniform. And it's not to say that I want that. Like I would love for that group to be able to mold and mesh, but uh, Allen, I think, is going to be the odd man out because I think Mobley in this series proved that he can be our starting center. As long as he puts on a few more pounds and gets a little bit better under the basket, it at least gives Mobley the ability to either spot up and shoot or go to the rim. And I think he was having a lot of success with that against Boston because they were clearly undersized. and he bullied him, especially in Game 5. I mean, 35 points, it's no joke.
Yeah.
Um, so I think with that, I'm totally okay saying goodbye to Allen, and let's try to get some more assets to this team because we need bench scoring, and we've needed it for a while now. And guys that stepped up, early on this year were incredibly disappointing in the playoffs. I mean, Niang was terrible this year. Struess, I know he's a starter, but really not much of a factor in a majority of these games early on. In Okoro, my goodness, he had an awful playoff this year. Um, and he was given opportunities. He played up around 28 minutes a game,
Mhm.
and guy couldn't make shots when he was given. And Boston was giving him space. They were giving him the Russell Westbrook treatment, where they were saying, you know what, go ahead and shoot it. We dare you. And they dared him, and he just couldn't make them. It was very disappointing to see just the lack of uh, opportunities that we just gave up and just weren't able to fully take over in this series and really in this playoff in total because the Magic were a good team and I'm not gonna like deny them of that talented team that they have over there. They're
Mhm.
young, they're talented, they're gonna be fun, but we should have swept them. With this roster, we should have and could have swept them, and we couldn't because we're held back by the likes of JB and guys not being able to hit shots and step up. And going back to JB, I think that's where the cuts will start is with him and possibly even Altman as well. I think that's where they start. Where do you want to see the Cavs start in terms of a either a swift in direction, or just any sort of changes that are inevitably going to be made?
I mean, it starts from the top. So, like you said, the first moves you could see are, if not Kobe Altman, it'd be JB first to go. And I know JB came out with a statement saying that he's happy in Cleveland. This is where he wants to be. He sees progress. We don't see progress. We saw very little progress from last season. Like, yeah, you made it to the second round, but that's because you had an easier matchup. Because if that was the Knicks, we'd probably get swept. Like 100%. I think we get cakewalked by
Yeah,
the Knicks. And playing against the Celtics proved it because we got cakewalked. We won one game. We tied up the series. We had a lot of hope. And it's just like you said, they're outside of Mitchell and pretty much Mobley, there's really no scoring on this team. Garland's hit or miss. Garland could drop 28 one night, and then the next night he drops 10.
yeah,
And he's not the same consistent Garland that we had, you know, 2 years ago when he was an All Star, where he was dropping 25 a night
yeah.
consistently, and he was at the now. And the thing is too, he misses a lot of layups. He misses a lot of open shots. I don't know if it's a confidence issue or a lot of the injuries that he's suffered in the last couple of years have been holding him back, which I hope that's more of the case because it makes a lot of sense. That because obviously he had hand injuries, he's had broken face everywhere in his face, basically. So it does make a lot of sense why he's not hitting shots, he's not getting to the rim easy, he's turning the ball completely over all the time. Um, but you still have to overcome those adversaries and just make your shots, get to the bucket. Like you said, you have to make some changes, whether it's Allen gone with Garland, because again, I think Mobley's being held back by Allen because when we saw Mobley play by himself in the series, he averaged like you said, like what 23 a game
Yeah,
or close
roughly.
to it. So I mean, he's a guy who could average 20 plus a game consistently. He's just being held back by Jared Allen, and we know Mobley's not a wing player. He likes to play inside, but he can get shots up if he needs to. Um, but yeah, you got to start from the top. I think you got to let go of JB. I think you need someone who can actually make a difference, actually get plays. We talked earlier about, or before the show, about maybe JJ Redick because it seems like the Lakers are about to fumble on him. And if you can get someone like JJ Redick, that'd be perfect because he's got a great basketball IQ. he would know how to fix people's jump shots because he's a shooting specialist. So he could, if you did keep like an Isaac Okoro, he could fix his jumper. He could fix the jumper if you keep Garland, whatever, he could help fix those jumpers and make them more smoother, and more shots would probably fall for them. But you just need to get pieces. I heard swings of Brandon Ingram,
Yeah.
who drops 22 a game, 23 a game. You could definitely use someone like that. You could definitely use some bench scoring because you definitely need people off the bench who could come in and make a difference. And now that you're probably gonna get rid of JB, you'll actually utilize your bench and have your bench come on instead of their starters playing 45 minutes a game. So I agree with you. I think it starts from the top. I think it goes from JB. I don't know if they'll get rid of Kobe Altman just yet. It could be he's on the hot seat now, starting this season, but it starts from the top. I think JB goes, and then you start getting rid of the likes of maybe Allen, Garland, Okoro. Start getting those guys out there. You keep guys like Levert. I would like to see Marcus Morris stay because he's been helpful off the bench.
Yeah. Agreed.
Um, but again, I think you start utilizing more of your Sam Merrills. I think Amani Bates makes the jump to the team next year, and he's a big surprise off the bench because you should definitely use someone like that in this playoffs off the bench, a guy who could create his own shot and he's always aggressive,
Yeah.
never afraid to play basketball. And I think you could have used him in this postseason, and he could have made a change. But it's how JB rolls. He doesn't trust young guys. It seems he doesn't trust the bench. Um, and that's the downfall. You need scoring, and he doesn't have guys right now that can score. Strus was supposed to be a guy who could and jack up threes and make them. Hasn't done it at all season. He did game one against Brooklyn, where he had 7 threes, 8 threes in that game. Went completely off for like 28, and then ever since then he hasn't been the same. He hasn't done shit.
Yeah.
So
And
it's crazy.
yeah, and I think you could say that about even Niang as well. I think Niang
Yeah.
was an incredible disappointment this year overall, and really in this playoff run. The dude went from being, a part of that 10-man, rotation every night to barely seeing, minutes. I mean, I think he played, what was it, 8 minutes? Yeah, eight minutes last night. He had one
Mhm.
rebound. Uh, I know he jacked up a few threes, just didn't make anything. But yeah, when it comes to the lack of scoring, I mean, you look at the box score from the other night, and Mobley having 33 there is great. Morris had 25 randomly. Strus had 12 with 9 assists. I think that's, if you get that out of Strus every night, I think that's what you can need, and I don't see anything wrong with that. But Isaac Okoro, 5 points. I know he had 7 rebounds, 4 assists, but I know he missed probably a good three or four threes. Dean Wade with 3 points. I know he came off of it, in injury recently, but he couldn't even provide us help on defense. And like that was another thing about Okoro that made him so special. And I feel like this playoff run, he really didn't do a lot defensively for us.
Mhm.
Um, but ultimately Garland is the biggest disappointment. Yeah, he had 9 assists last night. Last night was not the night he needed to be passing the ball. Sorry.
Bless you.
But oh my god, dude, my allergies have been nuts. But yeah, just 9 assists, but 11 points in 44 minutes. I mean, uh, I don't even want to pull up his actual like shooting numbers that game just because I don't want to get upset and mad. But I mean, the dude's just not playing good basketball, and I don't know what's wrong with his confidence. I don't know where it went wrong. I don't know if he's afraid to be aggressive, um, and confidently be aggressive. But whatever his issues are, they need to solve them, or they need to decide to move on from him and let Mitchell be your permanent guard because, I know there's a lot of rumors with not, Donovan not wanting to stay. Woj just dropped a bomb today and said that, he does want to stay. He's happy here. He's not, trying to get anybody out, on this team. So he obviously has no bad blood against some of the guys. Um, but I still think Donovan stays, and
I do too.
I think you have to try to do everything in your power to keep Donovan on this team, and if you can't, then you're going to set yourself back 5 years minimum.
I
Um,
think with Donovan, I think his only problem is the lack of like he feels like there's like a lack of confidence within the team. Like the team doesn't have much confidence. And I think that starts off with JB Bickerstaff because
yeah.
it doesn't seem like JB instills any confidence. He seems like that quiet guy in the locker room who doesn't say shit. He just always has his arms crossed. He's just sitting there and like
Bitching
come
to
on
the
guys.
refs about calls or not, not on
Yeah.
calls, and a lot of the written media right now about JJDB's guys were having some of the same issues that we had with him when it comes to his rotations, the way he would play some players, minutes
Mm-hmm.
restrictions, or just the amount of minutes he would have certain guys be playing. That matters to players, and when you're not listening to your guys and you're kind of forcing them to play the way that you want them to play because you think it's going to work when it hasn't.
Yeah.
um I do think ultimately JB could probably work somewhere else. I don't think he fits on this team, and I don't think he ever really has, and I think it would just be a fair fit to go ahead and just get away from him. Go find yourself a young coach that can really develop these guys, or somebody that's just extremely well versed in being able to juggle egos and be able to
Mm-hmm.
do it well. Um, because I think that's another thing we could very well be dealing with. And
Yeah.
so, get ready, Cavs fans, because you're gonna hear a lot of rumors. It's very important to stay even keel and wait until actual like stuff pops off. Like, don't freak out about Garland until Garland gets traded. Don't freak out about Allen until Allen gets traded. Don't freak out just yet. We are 2 days post this game. Um, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And we need to just accept that we lost. We lost to a good team. Although I think Boston is very fraudulent, and I think if we're at full capacity and we're under better leadership, this is a different Cavs team. And this is a much different series. And unfortunately, that made the difference.
Yeah.
So it sucks, but as you and I both said a few weeks ago, I don't think it really mattered how far we would have gone in this playoff run. I still think JB was on the hot seat regardless. After all of the news we've heard this year about him possibly getting fired before All-Star break, um, and we were calling for that, they decided to stay put. And now we're here, and you're still hearing about the same issues. I think it's inevitable. I think JB's out.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think JB is absolutely done. He could have won the NBA finals and his ass would have been fired still.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's just one of those things where he's just not a good coach and we everyone would know that it wasn't him that led the team to the wins. It was Mitchell. It was leadership around the players, not JB. And I mean, we all saw what was going on all game long. I mean, and you saw it all series. Was Mitchell just on his feet at the bench, clapping up, hyping his team up, getting them ready. Like he was doing more than JB, and that says something. And that's why a lot of people want JB out is because when Donovan Mitchell is supposed to be just sitting there chilling on the bench, he is almost standing by JB, clapping, like encouraging players, like, "Hey, let's go, let's fast pace, fast pace." Like he's coaching the team basically. Like that's an issue, and you have to address that issue. That JB is not fit to be a coach here. He can go coach Detroit. He can go coach Brooklyn. He can go coach whoever the hell he wants. But he's not fit for the Cavs. Because the reason why Donovan came here wasn't only just because he was a fan of this team his whole life growing up.
Yeah.
It was the fact that he saw a team that was really, really young. Like the second or third youngest team in the league. And he saw this team and he saw not dollar signs that this team could give him a max contract. He saw potential. He saw that this team could go all the way again and hoist a trophy once again. And because he saw that again at that time. Darius Garland was an all star when we first got him. Darius Garland was dropping almost 24 a game. Mobley was an all star. He was, and Mobley was almost, I think, a rookie as an all star. So he balled out. It's just become a thing. I think now it's just been a lack of confidence the last couple seasons when you had Donovan.
Yeah.
And it's not because everyone hates Donovan Mitchell. It's not because, it's just because I don't think JB instills any confidence in anybody. And looking at the practice footage and stuff that you see on Twitter and stuff, JB's just kind of hanging around, just walking around with his arms crossed, not really doing any coaching. It's like, dude, this is why you fucking lose. Is you're not doing any coaching. You're just standing around and you don't say a word all fucking practice and then you just leave. Like you're supposed to instill confidence in this team. You're supposed to coach this team, and you're not doing that. And I, I think they should have. I know there were reports that JB, I think it was after the Detroit game in December or something, that he almost lost. And they're like, yeah, he was like inches away from being fired. And it's like, you should have just let it fly. You should have just done it then. And I get it, you don't want to do it in the middle of the season because then everyone's got to learn under a new coach really quickly, and it could be really harmful. But I think you should have just let it rip back then and just got rid of him.
Right.
And I thought you probably would have saw more of a drastic improvement than you saw a drastic decrease because anybody's better than JB right now. Anybody. Yeah. You could have got me fucking like Steve Nash or something, and he would have been 10 times better than JB. But I think I think the lack of confidence came from JB Bickerstaff. It didn't come from the players. It came from him. And I think the players were doing their best to hype each other up and get each other ready, and it just wasn't enough. They needed it from their leader, and their leader has let them down. And again, like I said, it's sad when Donovan Mitchell is doing more coaching than JB on the sidelines when he's injured.
Yeah, that was alarming to me too. Seeing him up, and really trying to actually get to his guys, and he's always in Garland's ear, and he's always trying to help guys out, and it just seems like JB doesn't offer that. It really almost kind of feels like the Mike Brown days of like early LeBron, when Mike really wasn't doing any of the work. It was all of his assistant coaches doing a lot of the timeouts and stuff, and he would just kind of sit outside of the huddle. That was kind of like the vibe I got from that, and I don't need that out of a head coach, man. I need a guy that can captivate his players and make them like, hey man, we will follow him to the depths of hell. Like we will follow him to the end times. We don't care. That's what I want out of a head coach, and a guy like JJ Redick would be the most ideal. Whether that happens or not is a completely other thing. But I think the quote that they said about how there's basically not a large list of potential replacements. I just think that's nonsense. I think they're just saying that to kind of try to kill the media mood, because right now the media is all about, hey, Donovan Mitchell could have played his last games in Cleveland, or they're saying how in order for him to win a title, he should leave Cleveland or needs to leave Cleveland. And I just don't think that's actually the most realistic option. I think especially right now, there's only limited teams that he can join, in my opinion.
Definitely not the Lakers.
Yeah, and if you're doing that, you're still going to have to give up a lot of your roster. And that's one thing that guys like LeBron now understand, is when you do that, like especially when they did that in Miami with LeBron and Wade and Bosh. He even said it with JJ. He's like, that first year we couldn't really build a team. Like it was just us and then a bunch of YMCA guys pretty much.
Yeah.
And like it's a sad truth, but like that's the reality when you were trying to go and swing for the fences like that. Where the Cavs don't necessarily have that because they also have an option to trade some of these other guys. Jared Allen is 100% on the hot seat here. He struggled last year. He's been hurt this year. He was hurt a lot this year. Mobley was too, but I feel like getting rid of Mobley just means you're giving up on like an elite level star that can really pop off if you give him the chance. He's already an elite defender. I think he beats Jared Allen in that way,
Yeah.
just because he's more athletic and just he's able to do the things Allen can do.
He offers a
Um,
lot more.
yeah, and so I just think Allen is going to be the odd man out. Okoro is going to be on the way out. There's just no way. But overall, it's disappointing, but it's not shocking. Like we knew after the Magic series that like, hey, if the Cavs don't show up against Boston, Boston will beat us, and they'll beat us pretty easily because they're
Hmm.
still a good team. They have a much better roster than they've had in previous years. And realistically, this should be their year where they win it. Like this is supposed to be their year. So,
If they
you
don't
know,
blow it up.
yeah, and if they don't, then you will probably see a Jalen Brown or somebody leave that team. I Garrett fucking it. But yeah, just disappointing because the Celtics, even though they were great, they still weren't as great as they were advertised.
No, and
And
if they came across like Minnesota or
yeah,
like or like Denver or something, they would get crushed.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, even Dallas, I think, would give them a run for their money too.
Which I think they're playing right now.
No, it's Minnesota and
Dallas,
Denver. Yeah,
or yeah, Minnesota and Denver. Which I mean, I think that game is like really close right now. Oh no, never mind. Minnesota's beating them by like 24.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, they
I
would
mean,
get
it was.
they would get smoked by
Yeah,
Minnesota for
but the
sure.
point is, it was inevitable, and I'm almost kind of relieved because I really just wanted them to move on from JB. Like I'm really ready for them to be done with him.
And
So
I think that's gonna be the case too. I think we're gonna see because I don't think anything's gonna happen until after the finals is over. But I think once the finals are over and you get closer to the NBA draft, you know, which I don't even know when the NBA draft is, to be honest with you. It should be upcoming soon, shouldn't it?
should be like June.
I think it's like literally like a week after.
Should either be June or July. It's one or the other.
Um, let's see, June 26th. So it's literally right like a week or two after the NBA finals, or well, a couple weeks after. But I think just before then, you're gonna see JB's gone, and then you're gonna see them start plotting some trades, and obviously we have a first round draft pick. I don't know what pick we initially have. Um, I will look that up too, just to um be sure of what we actually have, because I know we got a first rounder. We have the 20th pick, so we're basically smack dab right in the middle, well, almost in the middle. Middle be 15, but we're pretty much right in the heart of the draft. And I mean, you could sneak some good. There's some good people you can get that are gonna be really young. This is where you draft like your bench scoring, and you draft maybe a secondary big. If you do get rid of Allen, a secondary big or something for Evan Mobley that could come off the bench and give Mobley some time off. And
Mm-hmm.
but I think JB. I think you're gonna see him gone within the next couple weeks.
If that.
Um, if that, I think you're gonna start seeing them cooking up trades. I think I think they fired JB as quick as they can so they can try and hire maybe like someone like a JJ Redick as fast as they can before anyone starts to interview him or get to him. Like they get rid of JB like tomorrow. Hurry up, interview JJ, and just be like, all right, you're
Yeah.
solid, boy. Like you're in. Like just get him in here as fast as possible so that way you don't have to worry about anyone stealing him. And then you could probably cook. I mean, I know it's all cryptic and shit. LeBron coming back to Cleveland to watch the game, and
Yeah.
the
That
last
was
time he
weird.
the last time he did that, he came back to Cleveland in 2014 because he went and watched the Zydrunas Ilgauskas jersey retirement, and
Yeah.
he ended up coming back to Cleveland 2 months later. Then when he went to the Lakers, he was at a summer league game for the Lakers, and then a month later went to the Lakers.
Yeah.
So You never fucking know because it could happen again where he showed up and got the biggest standing ovation in the crowd, and he could be like, they love me here, man. I gotta come home,
Yeah,
And he's probably looking at this roster like,
this is a good
this is
roster.
a
This
good.
is better than the Lakers were roster right now.
Well, he's like, this is a fantastic roster. They're literally just missing one person,
Yeah, it's
and
me.
that person could be me.
Yeah,
Because to be honest, even if you keep Allen, even if you keep Garland, I mean, LeBron could elevate those guys.
yeah,
He could really elevate those guys, and you never know. I mean, a lot of Lakers fans actually want LeBron to stay in LA, and I saw on Twitter a lot of Lakers fans said sign him to a player coach contract where he's a player and the head coach.
right.
And I was like, that's actually not a bad idea.
No, it's not.
Maybe you could do that in Cleveland. Give him the head coaching job and a player contract. Make him the player coach, or
Yeah,
and let him just cook up plays during halftime. Let him call the timeouts. Let him do shit. You know,
yeah,
and then he could be on the floor just dunking on people like he always does. And
yeah.
I think we're literally just missing one piece, and LeBron could be that. Again, he brings a lot of passion. He brings a lot of energy. He brings a lot of, you know,
Leadership.
motivation,
Yeah.
leadership. He brings everything that you wanted out of JB and that you never had, and the players tried to instill in each other wasn't enough. LeBron could bring that for everyone and be like, "Listen, guys, this is boom, 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 boom." Like he will
Yeah.
drop motivation, and everyone will play really well.
And
And
and he'll still be able to give Donovan his like, hey, this is your team. Like, I
I'm
am here
just
to
here,
help, but this is not my team. This is your
your
team
team.
as a player.
Yeah,
And because he wanted to do that with Kyrie before Kyrie decided to get out.
go
And so
batshit crazy.
I think if he does come back, I just know for a fact that LeBron isn't gonna just try to overtake the team and just make it all about him. He's gonna make sure that these other guys know, like, this is your team too, guys. Like, you know I'm here because I feel like I can bring enough to help you guys win this championship, because
Yeah,
they have it in them, but
they
they
do.
just need better leadership, up and
Yeah,
down.
yeah, I completely agree. Like you said, it just even if you did get JJ Redick and LeBron came, both of those guys can give you that leadership and motivation. And again, LeBron would still come in and be like, "Listen, this is your team. Like Donovan, this is your squad. I'm just
Yeah,
here to help make extra buckets for you."
yeah,
And just to give you another guy who, if you drop 30, I'll drop 30
yeah,
type, like me and Kyrie did when we both dropped 41 in back-to-back games in the finals. This is what I'm here for. You drop 35, cool. I'll match it. I'll drop 35.
yeah,
Then it's okay for Garland to score 15 and just let him take the back seat.
yeah,
Because that's all you. Then at that point, that's all you would need from Garland is to drop 15, and that's all we would have to expect out of him. Like, listen, drop your 7 assists a game, give us at least 15. We won't give a fuck. And then let Mobley cook in the paint, which I think the offense should have ran through him throughout this playoffs against the Celtics, or the series against the Celtics. I think the ball should have went through Mobley. So
oh
I don't
yeah,
know, man. I think we all have different thoughts. We all have different things we want, but I think when it comes down to it, me and you're on the same page. Is just get somebody in here who knows what the fuck they're doing, who can lead this team, give them motivation, get a couple guys in here, a couple bench guys. This team is set. You just need a few guys. This team will be set.
yeah. And I absolutely 100% agree with that. I think I don't think just getting rid of JB would solve everything, but
No, you have to get rid of a
it
couple
would
players.
but it would definitely help. And I think it's a start, and I think that's the start that you need for this team, because it just clearly these guys are not fully invested in him, and
No,
that's okay. But you can't overstay his welcome any longer,
no.
because it has been it's been overstayed, and I'm done with it. I really am.
We all are. It's well overdue that he's here. 5 years too long.
Yeah. So, over the course of the next few weeks, we're really going to see, what is going to happen next with this team. And so, again, I just want Cavs fans to, like, be
Relax.
ready. The rumor wheel is going to turn. It already is. Like, there's clips every hour on the hour right now of, oh, this is Donovan Mitchell's last game, blah blah blah, and it's, don't buy into it yet. You literally heard from Woj and him saying that Donovan is happy here. He doesn't want to leave. He has no intention of leaving. Um, take that for what it is, and just let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to fix here still. But yeah, I kind of want to move on from Cavs talk, just because it's depressing, and go a little bit more into some more fun stuff for us. Back to some football talk, which we haven't been able to do here in the last few weeks. But the NFL schedules finally came out, was yesterday, and yeah, Brown's schedule is officially here, and I gotta say, Andrew, I know our strength of schedule is like literally one of the toughest ones, if not the toughest, according to just, how teams did last year.
Yeah.
But looking at this schedule, I still see, I mean, 10 to 12 wins on this easily.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
and we could sort of go through each game at a time and, just kind of sort of try to predict our thoughts here. I don't want to get too involved in that because there's obviously a lot of games, but there's some very winnable games on this schedule, and I just think with the way this team's built right now, with the confidence we're all having to come in right now with this team, I'm not really scared to play anybody.
And the thing is too, if you can get Deshaun Watson back to a level like he was in Houston, you're gonna win a lot of these fucking games, hands down. Like you're gonna a lot of these games, if not all these games, are gonna be really tight and really close because you do what helps Deshaun too is you have the best defense in the NFL right now,
Yeah.
and I think if you can get Deshaun Watson just to even half the level he was in Houston, these are very winnable games. And I don't know if you saw Deshaun on his podcast the other day say when he was playing the Ravens game, he's like, I did a lot of dink and dunks. And he goes, I probably should have stuck to that all season long because he goes, it worked for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to be like I was in Houston and throw the deep ball every time.
Yeah.
He goes, I should have just, when the dink and dunk was there, I should have just used it instead of trying to force balls downfield.
Yeah.
And he goes, it worked against the Ravens. He's like, we came back and we beat them, and I had a broken shoulder, pretty much a broken foot, and
Yeah.
he goes, the dink and dunk worked, and he goes, I know why Tom Brady basically used it his whole career because it works.
Yeah.
So he goes, it's an easy 5 yards every time almost. Like all I have to do is find David in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and like that I think was a big part of Stefanski's offense, especially early on with Baker and stuff. Those type of plays were really catered to him, and I'm really curious to see if Ken Dorsey continues to bring some of that as well. I think he brings a lot more play action stuff, although I think Stefanski was already pretty good at those as well. It just sounds like it's going to give Watson a little more freedom in the passing game to be able to make decisions throughout the game and be able to switch them up when he needs to. But I think Watson finally has the capability and he has no excuses. And this is going to be a big year for him, or at least it should be viewed as going to be a big year for him because now there is no more excuses. You are coming in healthier than you've been, and you are coming in with a better offensive scheme for you. You have a better receiving core. You have the best defense in the league coming back from last year's great year that we had with them. And you even improved on that defense from last year. So, again, zero excuses. You will now have a fresh, back to healthy O-line as well with guys that they brought in. Sky is the limit for this team.
Yep.
And it's going to really come down to how Watson affects these games. And I'm telling you what, if Watson can even get remotely close to the 2020 year, this team is going to be an easily 12 to 13 win team. And when they do, and they win this division, and even possibly win the AFC, division, in general, this team's going to be tough to beat, especially if you're having a lot more home playoff games, because
Yeah.
that's all we're missing at this point is some home playoff games.
No, and when we get started with the what we think of the schedule, I do think we should kind of go about it in a realistic way, as in like I think Nick Chubb starts on this off the season on the pup list,
Yeah,
and he misses the first 4 weeks guaranteed.
if
Because
not longer.
if
Like
not longer, I think 4 to 6. I think the first 4 to 6 games he's out. I would give him around that to like half a season.
I would say the longest that he will be out, because I think it'll be the first month to month and a half, so about 4 to 6 weeks. But the one game that for whatever reason I think is going to be the game he comes back if he decides to take a little bit longer is that Thursday night game against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That I think is a very realistic option, and it still gives him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games to play before the playoffs. I think that's plenty of time for him to get going before the playoffs. And if we're winning games, it's only going to help us. And I think that's why we decided to sign, 3 running backs, or at least have 3 active running backs on this roster currently right now.
Hmm.
Um, because I think they're just prepared to start the season out or start at least a good half of the season without Chubb. And I think that's why you bring in a guy like Ken Dorsey who has the more passing heavy offense.
Hmm.
I think they're getting ready to start selling towards that and not having to rely on Chubb to run the ball 25 times a game. I just think that's going to be a thing of the past for us. I think we're going to have to run the ball no more than 20 times in a game, and I think that's a sweet spot. I think Chubb getting, 13 to 15 carries, especially early on, is going to be nice, and then upping it to about 18 to 20.
Hmm.
I think it's a super big sweet spot for him just because of his big play capability and his breakaway capabilities, just bar none, some of the best. But this is going to be Watson's chance to now like fully invest in this offense or really like have his hands truly on this offense, just by bringing in Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And so, I mean, again, with these games, I mean, you start the year off, you're in or you're playing Dallas at home, which is I think is really cool because it's Tom Brady's first game casting. So that'll be a fun one. It'll be a 4:25 game on Fox, so it'll be prime time pretty much for us. At least it'll be nationally televised. And then you have I think a couple easy games to start off after that. You got Jacksonville, who is going to be good, but I'm not really scared of Jacksonville, in my
No.
opinion. You're going to be in Jacksonville, and that's fine, but it's only week 2. I don't think you really have to worry about that. But then you have New York coming to Cleveland, the Raiders game in Las Vegas. Then you're at Washington, at Philly, and then you host Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Chargers before your bye week. So your bye week is about halfway through the year. I like our bye week this week or this year. I'm glad it's not
The
too
fourth weeks.
far. Yeah, like I'm really glad it's pretty split down the middle.
Hmm.
I like that we have a couple Thursday night games. We do have a Sunday night game. We have one week where we're going from a Thursday night game to a Sunday night game, but that is also a 10-day layoff. The thing that's going to suck for us is going from New Orleans on the 17th to playing that Thursday night game against Pittsburgh on the 21st. So that's a quick turnaround. But that seems to always happen to everybody at least once. So I'm not too concerned with that. And then a Sunday night game against Miami in Cleveland in December. I feel like that should be a guaranteed win because Tua struggles in the cold.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of fun games this year. Kansas City at Cleveland, so hosting Kansas City in the middle of December as well. That is going to be another absolutely fun game. I think that's really going to be a game that's going to be a benchmark for where Cleveland is. And if they can play well against them, you may not even have to beat them. But if you can play well and contend with them and just either barely scrape by with a loss or you come back with a win, that is going to be very telling of this team and what they're capable of. And so, again, I know our strength of schedule is pretty tough, but I think before the bye week, we have a chance to go on a nice win streak. I mean, I think the only guaranteed loss is Philly. I think
Yeah.
we lose to Philly in Philadelphia, but Cincinnati coming to Cleveland, even Baltimore and the Chargers coming to Cleveland, I'm just not really high on either one of those guys. I don't think they really elevated their teams that well. Besides Baltimore obviously added Derrick Henry, but we've shut him down before. We could certainly do it again. New Orleans isn't that tough in my opinion. I think Denver's the worst, going to be the worst team in the league. Pittsburgh really doesn't move the needle for me. And yeah, again, Kansas City is going to be the benchmark game, I think, for us.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like Kansas City is gonna be like the this is where we're at. Like if we could beat Kansas City, we could beat anybody type situation. And for me, like going down the list, Dallas, I mean, that's gonna be a very good game to start out the season with. It's gonna be a very fun, competitive game. I think it's gonna be a very tight game. I think having the crowd on our side is really gonna help us in that game as well. Jacksonville, I don't. Again, at home, they're probably gonna be the favorites, but they really haven't done anything to get too much better. And that's gonna be the story with the teams after Jacksonville too. Jacksonville hasn't gotten much better. The Giants are obviously rebuilding. Vegas didn't do anything to get themselves any better. Washington is again a super young team that is just restarting. And they have a new head coach. Again, Philly is one of those guaranteed losses. Like you're just gonna go in there and just pretty much lose, unless Deshaun can pull something out of his ass and do something. The Bengals at home. Again, I don't think the Bengals have really done anything to get super better. I think their wide receiver core is the weakest now in the league
Yeah, it's bad.
because you're losing T. Higgins and you're going to lose Tyler Boyd. Or, I mean, you're probably, you lost Tyler Boyd. You're going to lose T. Higgins because he's not going to sit there and stick on the, God, what's it called again? He's not on a contract, but,
Tag.
yeah, he's tagged. Um, he's tagged, so obviously he's not going to stay on the tag. He didn't want to be on the tag, and they also Trey Hendrickson wants out of Cincinnati too, which is their one of their better players too, and their best defensive player.
Yeah.
So they're going to lose their best defensive player too because he doesn't also want to play on the tag either. So Cincinnati really hasn't done anything to get better. They've overspent for Joe Burrow, and they're definitely going to overspend on Jamar Chase, and they're going to have zero money, and they're going to have no offense. Again, still no offensive line, no no defense, and they lost two of their really good receivers, and again, that hand does not look too great for Joe Burrow because I saw him throw the other day and he was throwing behind people. So I think that wrist is still hurting like crazy even after surgery, and it's probably not going to look the greatest going into the season. So the Bengals have just kind of diminished themselves. Again, the Ravens, no matter whether you're a home or away, is a tough game. The Chargers, again, they haven't really done anything to get better. They got Harbaugh as their head coach, and I don't think he does anything in his first season as a head coach. Then you go into the bye again. The Saints haven't done much to get better. They're literally the same exact team.
Yeah.
Steelers. I don't know why they think that Russell Wilson is still the Seahawks Russell Wilson and really fucking good. Ever since he went to Denver, he's just really been downhill. He hasn't been spectacular at all. He hasn't really done anything at all.
Yeah.
And then the news of them using Justin Fields on like kickoff returns and punt returns and stuff, like get the fuck out of here with that dumb shit. I don't think they know what they're doing in Pittsburgh anymore. I think they're just kind of freaking out and just throwing everything they can and they're just panicking because I think Mike Tomlin's on his way out after the year, and they're just kind of panicking, trying to put something quickly last minute, and it's just not going to work out.
No.
Denver's obviously, like you said, is going to be probably one of the worst, if not the worst team in the NFL because they're young and they got rid of pretty much everybody. Again, at Pittsburgh, I still think that's a game you can easily win because yeah, you're in Pittsburgh, but it's just a roster that's just randomly thrown together, and George Pickens doesn't even want to be there no more because he doesn't even have a good quarterback.
No.
um, Kansas City again. Kansas City and like the Eagles are like the two games you can almost like I won't say guarantee losses, but
There's going to
it's
be
gonna
the
feel
hardest
like
games.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be the hardest games you're ever gonna play. Again, at the Bengals, not really too worried about that. Miami week 17 in December. You just pray to God it gets super cold and Tua just doesn't do jack shit
Yeah.
like he did in Kansas City in the playoffs, and then obviously Baltimore week 18. Again, whether you're home or away against Baltimore, it's always a difficult game.
Yeah.
So I could see, like you said, like this is like a 10 to 12 win team. I think this team has the chance to win the division. And it's basically, I think now it's just basically Baltimore and Cleveland.
Yeah.
Unless somehow Mike Tomlin magically does what he does best and makes the Steelers, a fucking 10-win football team still. And we're all like, what the fuck? How did he do this again?
Right. I mean, like, listen, I'm not going to say that Russell Wilson isn't like a capable quarterback. I just don't think he has enough help offensively to help him
Well, and they didn't
over
really
there.
upgrade their offensive line either.
No.
And so it's like, you haven't done, and again, you haven't done anything to get better offensively. You lost, I think they lost James Washington, one of the receivers, and I think they might lose the another.
Yeah.
And obviously Pickens is pissed off being there now, and he probably doesn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
So you have, and then you don't have a running back. Najee is garbage. He's not resigning. And then Jalen Warren, like he had a fantastic year. Don't get me wrong, but is he really going to keep that up? Or is people going to be like, yeah, he's just going to get smoked?
Right.
So it's one of those. The Steelers haven't done themselves any favor. And the thing is, it's like the Steelers don't care about their offense. They just keep like more or less like upgrading their defense and not doing anything with their offense.
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. Like, I really don't have, like, I don't know, there's not too big of threats for me, I think, in the AFC North. I think the Bengals are definitely going to regress. I think that wrist, injury, that hand for, Burrow is really affecting him a lot more than I think we're giving credit. And I think it's going to. There's a lot of people saying that an injury, it's not always a guarantee that it fully heals the way it should.
Yeah.
There's going to be swelling and there's going to be discomfort a lot. So, if that plays a factor, like Burrow could really struggle for a little while.
Especially
And
once you get to the colder months too, that's really gonna make it hurt even more.
yeah,
Especially when you
it's going
land
to
on it.
stiffen
It's
up.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so, and like, I guess when it comes to that injury, I think a lot of it has to do with blood flow. Like the blood flow around that area isn't as good. So yeah, it'll swell up and it just won't be as efficient. So it's gonna suck for him. Baltimore, I think, is the hardest team in the division because I really still don't think the Steelers are that good. I think they haven't done anything really like worthwhile that would I think elevate that offense the way they
they
need
got
to.
they drafted that offensive tackle in the draft. That's actually gonna be solid for them, but
Right, right. But like
the
other than
one
that,
guy, it's not
and
gonna
it's
do everything.
and it's still not going to stop Miles Garrett from getting a sack or two on them.
Well,
It's not.
and that's the thing. Like the Browns have completely like not only have they kept their entire defensive line, but they also upgraded their defensive line off on the bench,
Yeah.
like in their depth. So if someone goes down, someone just as good is going to come in,
Yeah.
the thing is like we all know that the Browns defense are going to scheme around.
Yeah.
So it's not like everything is a guarantee.
No.
Like Myles Garrett, if he doesn't get off the edge, you're going to see Zadarius come off the other side. You're going to see, some of the other guys come straight up through the middle, and it's not going to be fun. Shelby Harris can scream through the middle. You have
Michael Hall now is going to
Michael
be
Hall is a
fun.
stud.
He is going to be fun to have in pass. Rush or times
Yeah.
like he's going to be fun.
Isaiah McGuire is a solid one too.
Yeah, but he's more power as well. Like he's not going to be the fastest guy off the edge, but he's going to bulldoze people.
Trust me, I've seen him work out. I
Yeah.
think he lives in my building, and I've seen him in the gym grinding and working out. So I can tell he's got a lot of power.
Yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah, so I mean, again, this is going to be a fun team to watch, and I think them getting a couple nationally televised games this year I think the media finally knows. Like they're like, okay, the Browns played well last year. Let's give them their their credit and let's
Yeah,
let them be on
about
national
time.
television. And um, yeah, I think Stefanski's gonna have his guys ready. I think he finally understands after last year what it takes to win, and I think the guys absolutely fully believe in him. They
Hmm.
believe in the guys there, and they improved on the already roster that was solid last year. We filled some of the blanks that we were sort of having questions at. Guys elevated, and now it's time to really elevate. Like it's time for guys like Delpit and Jock to, I mean, go Pro Bowl this year. We're gonna look for guys like that. Even Emerson, Newsom,
Hmm.
those guys are gonna need to step up. Wide receivers now are gonna need to step up. Now that we have Jerry Judy, there's no excuse to do not have more than one solid guy to throw to because Coop is it. But you have options, and that's why I said before Watson doesn't have the excuse. And he's not going to have an excuse. I think everything's been kind of put in front of him and laid out the way it needs to, and this is his team now. And they're like, all right, we've done what we can with what we have. Now let's go win. And this is gonna be the year where you have the chance to do it
Yeah.
because I really feel like a lot of the teams that were winning didn't really improve per se, but they're still going to be good. Like San Fran is still going to be good. Detroit is still going to be fun. Obviously the Chiefs are going to contend every year. When you have Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelsey, it's a nasty duo.
Hmm.
The Cowboys are still going to be pretty decent. Um, you know, those teams are going to be good. But guys, teams like the Chargers and stuff, I really don't think they're really elevated their team. I think they're going to have a down year, and I think they're going to blow it up. And I think that's where they're heading. I think that's where some of these teams are heading. So this is the time for the Browns to really, really start to pull away and really actually push for a potential, playoff run. But if they get to the playoffs this year, they have got to win that first game. They have got to get past that hurdle. And once we get back to that, this team is going to be putting the league on notice for sure, and it's going
Yeah.
to be fun to watch. So I'm excited for football season. You know, it's we're already halfway through May, so you have another month until if that until we got training camps, and then by end of July things are ramping up. The real mandatory camps are there, and next thing you know, August rolls around preseason, and
August
next
10th
thing you
is
know, we're done. Yeah.
August 10th is the first preseason game.
Yeah, and then the first game I think is September like 9th or like 8th or something.
It's the 8th, September
Yeah,
8th.
8th. Yeah, because their week 2 game is the 15th, which is a
Yep.
couple days after my birthday. It's because my birthday's on Friday this year, so Friday the
Yes,
13th. It'll be great.
sir.
It'll be
Yeah.
great.
Too bad
So
the game's not at home. We could have taken you to the game for your
I
birthday.
know, man. It would have been great. I mean, we could try to go to the Dallas game. Maybe we'll see.
I already saw tickets for that game, and it's like
Bad.
$200 for like the cheapest ticket.
Of course it is. God, yeah. But
I think
I'm
I think our best chances is week 3 against the Giants
yeah.
when the tickets are like $20.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would like to go to a game this year, so we'll
Yeah,
definitely try to get one. Because I don't think I went to one last year. No, I didn't. So
I didn't go to one either.
I have to, but I also have to make my way out to a Guardians game as well. So hopefully I get this fucking job, Andrew. Hopefully I get it.
I hope so too, man. I'm rooting for you to get this job.
I mean, honestly, I don't see why I won't, but that's here nor there. But
Yeah,
yeah, man, it's gonna be a fun year, and I'm really excited for football season. I'm also really excited for Ohio State, football as well. I can't wait to get back into talking about them again. Um, and yeah, man, this football season is gonna be fun, and I think it's gonna be a lot of fun for us because we're gonna add more things that we're gonna be doing. I know we're gonna be getting on TikTok here real soon. We're gonna try out some apps and stuff that we have, and yeah, we're gonna test the waters out and just keep elevating. We're gonna keep trying to grow more as the season progresses. So we're really excited about that. But Andrew, you got anything else for us before we get off for the night?
no, man. All I gotta say is, now that the Cavs are done, go Guards, baby. Boys are
Yes.
cruising.
Go Guards. Obviously they've been baseball season is kind of it's very up and down. And that's when people get mad that they lose one series to a bad team and then they beat the defending champs the next week. It just happens. It's just how it goes. Like
Got division
that's
rivals
baseball.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Got the
So
Twins starting tomorrow. So
yeah. So this is gonna be an important series too. So hopefully they will pull away. But that's gonna do it for us, my friends. We'll see you guys next week with some Guardians talk and hopefully some more rumors about the Cavs, as that's going to ramp up pretty
absolutely.
quickly. So we'll see you guys next week.